You clicked on this video because you want to learn the secret to packing a winter hiking bag.
I'm not gonna disappoint you.
Either that or you're my mom, because shout out to my mom. She watches all my videos.
So let's get into it right after this winter hiking montage.
Was that obnoxious? Some would say yes, and I would have to agree with them. But that's not what you're here for. You want to see how to pack a winter hiking backpack. And here's mine. First of all, there's a second camera angle, and it's right here. This is happening at the same time. You can see my hand move in and out of the frame. So, the bag I use is the Osprey Mantis 24, and it's probably at this point several generations old. But you know what? You get what you get and you don't get upset. Before we start deconstructing this pack and seeing what's inside and those famed secrets that we're going to get to, let's see how much this pack weighed for my last trip. All right, that sucker weighs around 260 ounces. I'll put up somewhere on the screen what that is in other measurements. That may seem like a lot for a day hike, but winter hiking is quite different from summer hiking. You need a lot more safety gear, and you need to pack some hot water, which means you have to have heavier things to carry that water. This pack has a nice outer pocket that's a little stretchy, and the first thing I always bring on any winter hike,
Let's call this secret number 1.
is a pair of micro spikes. Now, you could use other traction devices, but you need traction no matter what, even if the weather looks completely clear. These particular ones are Catula micro spikes, and they are really, really dull. On a day when the weather is going to be worse and potentially snow, I bring snowshoes, and if I know that the trail hasn't been broken in or out, or however you say that, I bring snowshoes as well. But for this last hike that I did, it's sort of early winter, late fall, and there hasn't been a lot of snow up in the mountains. So traction devices like this work great. Okay, what else do we have on the outside of this bag? Well, in this pocket, I've got a Nalgene bottle, and this I filled with nearly boiling water and put in an electrolyte drink mix. Now, this one is Element, and Element sponsors seemingly everything in the outdoor space. They are not a sponsor of this video. I do really like Element. I wish that they didn't use stevia. I wish that it was like straight salt and the flavor instead of like the sweetener. But I'm weird and I love salt, so I think a lot of people would hate that. So this Nalgene bottle fits nicely in a side pocket here. This is a 32 ounce Nalgene, as you can see there. And these will take boiling water. I prefer to do just right before boiling because boiling makes me a little nervous with plastic, but they hold that heat really, really well. And so for this hike took about 8 hours, and you can have this right on the outside of your pack and it will not freeze in that time. On the other side pocket over here, I had a Dura flask. Now this will keep the liquid hot if you pour hot water in. With a Nalgene, it will eventually get cooler. This will keep it hot just like any regular thermos. So in this one, I put hot chocolate because I'm a child. All right, what else do we have on the outside? Let's flip the bag over. No matter when I'm hiking, I always bring my Garmin InReach with me. So my Garmin InReach is an SOS satellite device. That means if I don't have cell phone reception and I get hurt or I need to call for help for someone else, I can. So I love this InReach. And if you're going to go winter hiking, especially solo, I feel like a satellite device is an absolute must. Now, a lot of people can get away with just using the newer iPhones. If you've got those, they have a satellite SOS communicator in them. The thing that I like about the InReach is that the plan that I use allows me to send my tracking points to my family so they can watch me while I hike. And that way, if I stop for an extended period of time, they might ping me and try to find out what's going on, or they could even send search and rescue if it was really dire. This one happens to be the InReach Mini 2, but there are a ton of different ones that Garmin makes. There's another brand called Zoleo that makes ones. They don't have screens on them. Garmin makes one without a screen as well. But if you're going to go with a screenless one and you don't need tracking marks, you just need to be able to text an SOS, I think right now I would recommend the Motorola Defy, because that device has the cheapest subscription base. And the thing that gets really expensive about these, I mean, they're expensive anyway, but the thing that gets really expensive about them is your subscription service. So you have to pay whenever you're using it, a monthly fee usually. As you can see, the bag is well worn. I've pulled some zipper pulls right off and just used a little shot cord. Usually in these pockets, I'll have snacks. Let's see what I've got in here this time, or had in here. So I have a lighter. This one's in a little waterproof case, and it's a butane lighter, so it lights really well. I also have a multi-tool. This is a credit card size multi-tool. It's got scissors in it, which is what I primarily use it for. It's also got tweezers, and it's got a pen. It has a a little magnifying glass, which is funny, and it's got a set of really small screwdrivers. I have a Cliff Bar, which I didn't even remember that I had packed it in this side, honestly. I don't always unpack. And I have some bug wipes, which I didn't really need for this pack since it's the winter. And the bugs are all dead. Moving back to the other side of the pack, there's this really handy front pouch in this particular bag. And what I've got here is my poop kit. We're not going to go through it, but it has a trowel, it has toilet paper, and I even have a bidet in there. I probably wouldn't use the bidet in the winter, but you never know. You're also generally supposed to take wag bags in the winter, which are just a way for you to carry your poop out instead of burying them in the snow. But it was early enough season that I could have gotten down into the ground, so I just took my standard poop kit. That's all I had in this front pack. Let's take a look at this top pocket. I have a standard med kit. This has a lot of stuff in it that came originally, but it also has a ton of stuff that I've replaced in there. The main things that I usually have and need are Band-Aids, ibuprofen, a way to staunch bleeding if I need to. This thing that came flying out is a New Hampshire Hike Safe card that I've kind of self-laminated with tape so that it doesn't get destroyed. But each year I spend $35 for a family Hike Safe card. That way, if I get into trouble and search and rescue gets called, in theory, this will cover that search and rescue, as long as I'm not being a dummy. In winter hikes, I bring a beefier multi-tool, one that has a really good set of pliers in case any of my gear breaks down and I have to repair it on site. So snowshoes, micro spikes, I can fix a lot of things with a good pair of pliers. In here, I also had a headlamp, which I've taken out since, but I also always keep a backup light. This one goes on the brim of a ball cap, so it's a nice little one from Nightcore, I believe. I'll put all the links down below in case you're curious about any of this stuff. But my made headlamp is also a Nightcore headlamp. It's an NU25, I believe, the new version. I also have the old version, which I preferred slightly to the new version, but the new version charges through USB-C, so it's just more convenient. Okay, moving on to the inside, and we're going to get into one of the biggest secrets, perhaps the biggest secret of packing a winter hiking bag. Coming right up.
Don't lose hope. We're getting there.
All right, inside. This is the main pocket. Now, in this main pocket, I brought a 360 camera. This is the Insta 360, I don't know, something or other. Whatever. It's got 2 lenses on it. You can put it up and get some 3D shots. I didn't actually use it on this hike, so wasted weight. Big secret. Don't waste your weight. See what else is in here. I always bring a pair of sunglasses with me, unless it's dead of winter, and then I'll bring goggles. But I bring those because I have glasses. And another big trick is use some sort of device to keep the glasses or sunglasses on your head. So some kind of strap that you can tighten, like Chubbs makes a strap that you can tighten. I always have those on my glasses so they don't live in my pack. Generally on a winter hike, I don't want to stop and eat. So what I'll do is, so they don't freeze, I put a bunch of bars into a Ziploc bag and then wrap them in a hat or some sort of thing that will keep them warm. Here, oh, I also have extra batteries for my camera stuff if that's of interest to you, but it's probably not. You're just hiking, right? So in this case, on this hike, I brought 3 Cliff Bars plus the one that I forgot in the front. I actually brought 4. I ate one, so it's not there. I ate one of these Cool Mint chocolate ones. Delicious. Putting them in this just helps me keep track of where they are in the bag, and it also made sure that they don't freeze. Frozen Cliff Bars, hard to eat. I always bring some hot hands. Now, sometimes I bring the ones that go in mittens. Sometimes I bring the ones like this one that's just a big pack that you can put anywhere. Sometimes I bring the one that go in your feet, but it's always important to have a pair of hot hands. The way these work is once you expose them to air, they get warm. So the more air they hit, the warmer they get. So if you put them in a plastic bag, for instance, they're not going to be that hot. But if you allow them to get airflow, they'll get warmer. So if you get super cold or if you get stuck, these are a really good thing to have around. On this last hike, it was about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that is in Celsius. And I wore this, and I followed the mantra, be bold, start cold. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have layers to make sure that you are not going to freeze. So what I did was I packed all my layers in here, and for this particular hike, I don't think I put any of them on, but I'm super glad that I had them, because if I hadn't had them and it got cold or weather rolled in, then I would have been in danger. So these are really important to bring with you. The first one that I have accessible here is an outer shell. So this could be a rain jacket, it could even just be a wind coat, or a windbreaker. It could be all the way up to a parka. This is going to keep the wind from going through a layer like this fleece, but it's also going to keep the moisture off me if it starts snowing or hailing or raining or whatever it is. So this one's just a marmot. You can kind of get whatever you want. They get a lot more expensive the lighter they get. So I would recommend, if you're just starting this, pack something that isn't too heavy, but is going to be water resistant at least. I brought a super duper heavy winter hat. Now, this hat I probably would never wear while I was hiking because it would keep my head too hot. But this is awesome if you're going to stop for lunch or you just need to get warm for a minute. You need something that's going to keep your head really, really, really warm. Normally, I just wear a hat that's kind of insulated with fleece and covers my ears. And the one that I wore on this hike was a kind of a baseball cap style one. I really like wearing baseball caps in case I need to put a hood over my head so that the hood doesn't drop into my eyes and I don't have to cinch up the thing. But I really would only use this type of thing in an emergency or if I was stopped for a long period of time. This, I normally would bring a smaller one of these, but this is a puffy jacket, all kind of pushed into its own little container. I honestly never wear a puffy jacket because I run so hot. But in terms of layering, this is a really good layer to have. I would never hike in a puffy jacket ever because they get wet and they stay wet. Hike in a fleece. If you're getting wet, hike in a rain jacket. You're going to get wet on the inside, but it's different than summer wet. So summer wet is you're going to get wet and you're going to keep hiking and you're just going to be wet. Winter wet is super dangerous because that winter moisture is very, very cold. Your moisture is very, very warm. It makes your moisture colder. You get colder. It's an ongoing cycle, and eventually you're going to get hypothermia. So don't do that. I always carry, whether it's winter or summer, I always carry a little bivy sack. It's super small. This one is maybe not the best one for winter, but it will work in a pinch. It's essentially a metal blanket, so it'll keep your warmth in as much as possible. It's like an emergency sleeping bag, sort of. This is really only an emergency thing, or you could use it in conjunction with other stuff. Now, if I was going out for longer or I was worried about being stranded out on the mountain, I would also bring a larger shelter, like a tarp, and maybe some form of sleeping material that would keep me warmer. This, again, just an emergency thing. We're there. We're to the big secret. You made it. Give yourself a hand. So my number one piece of advice for hiking a winter backpack is, in order to keep everything warm inside and also have some backup water, I fill a Nalgene bottle with boiling water or close to boiling water at the beginning before I start. I put it in a Ziploc bag so that if it does leak, it doesn't get on the stuff in there. But this works as a radiator or a heater in your bag. So all the stuff in your bag doesn't get freezing cold. That's really good for your layers. It's really good for your food. If you have electronics, it's really good. It keeps your electronics warm. This thing is a lifesaver. It also can work in a pinch if you get really cold and you need to shelter. You can use it next to your body. It's awesome. Sounds like such a silly thing, but it is not. Being warm and being hydrated are the two most important things in a winter hike, in my opinion. The rest of the stuff is kind of emergency things or things to make your life more comfortable out there. Water and being able to get warm are non-negotiable. You have to have those things. So my biggest tip for having a successful winter pack is give yourself extra water. Make sure it's boiling or really hot when you put it in the morning, so it'll stay that way for a while, and it'll keep things in your bag nice and toasty. Yes, it's a lot of extra weight, but you will thank me if you ever get into an emergency situation. You will have not only another warm source, you will also have extra water. And those are the two things that will probably kill you the quickest in winter. So that's my winter loadout. But I'm sure a lot of you watching have other ideas or ways that you pack your pack. I'd love to hear those in the comments. For anybody who hasn't winter hiked, was this helpful? Do you have any other questions? Anything that I could answer for you? Please leave those in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to this video. It's super important because my mom wants me to succeed. And you don't want to make my mom mad. Okay, time for me to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.